Hello, in this lesson, I want you to prove theorems about triangles by something called indirect proof. In indirect proof, or proof by contradiction, is where you're going to use the contrapositive to prove it. It's kind of like what a police officer, or if you ever read the Sherlock Holmes books, would use. You, if there's a crime being committed, the first thing they do is they assume everybody is guilty. Anybody who's around, everybody is guilty. And then they start eliminating everybody who isn't guilty until they're left with one person. And by deductive reasoning, it's got to be that person. When we do an indirect proof, we assume the opposite of what we're trying to prove. That's the real difference we're going to do. There's an extra step in here, and our extra step is we're going to assume the opposite of what we're trying to prove. And then we're going to use regular reasoning, statement reasons, everything else we do about proofs until you come to a contradiction. That's either going to be a contradiction of the hypothesis or a fact that we know, like a definition, a postulate, theorem, or a corollary that would show that that's not true. Because that's false, that means our assumption is false, and therefore what we want to do is true, which seems kind of weird, but that's how it works. So the whole thing about doing an indirect proof, here's a direct proof. We start with our statement, we do a bunch of logic until we come to a conclusion. But when you do an indirect proof, you're going to assume the opposite of what you want to prove. Then you're going to do your direct reasoning until you prove or come to a contradiction, usually the hypothesis, but not necessarily. Like I said, it could be a fact or some other fact. And then, because that's true, we're going to say, therefore, let me write that. So, therefore, is our three dots. We're going to say P must be true. Our conclusion must be true. So, Q is true.